This is S with S&M on Sci-Fi.
And this is M.
And today we're going to be watching a movie called Trancers?
Trancers.
Trancers. It's not a movie I'm familiar with in any fashion whatsoever, M, but I think you've seen it.
I have, yep. So technically this is a movie that I've picked. I'd seen this a number of years ago. It is not a well-known, what I would consider well-known sci-fi movie.
I've never heard of it till today.
It is a movie that I think has some really good sci-fi elements. And without giving away too much to begin with, so we can let Scott see it fresh, let's just jump right into the movie and see where it takes us.
Absolutely. Before we do, we're going to invite Will Wheaton again. Please come on the show sometime, Will, so we can stop inviting you.
Well, you know what? If he ever comes on the show, I'm going to invite him again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, that would be a special episode, too, wouldn't it? Oh, I'd let him pick the movie. I don't even care what it is.
Wait. Let Will Wheaton pick
the movie, right.
So wait, that makes a good question here before we get into an actual movie. What do you think he would pick? Speculate.
Oh, man. What would Will Wheaton pick?
A Star Trek movie? Come on.
Well, you know, if he was coming on the show recently, here real quick, let's say, only because I picked up on the World War Z movie from him. He turned me on to the book. I read the book. I think that he would watch that movie only so we can yell at it. Anyway,
so you're right. That is going to depend on when, you know, what's new
out,
playing,
what's coming.
And honestly, I have no idea what his
I don't either.
Science fiction interests are.
He's gotten into a lot of writing recently, specifically kind of like the only thing that comes close that I can even think of is kind of like the fan fiction of Star Trek. He has a funny thing out there about red shirts.
Cool. Yeah. Of course, the people that die.
Right, the people that die. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, to watching this movie, I am drinking Tecate Light. Now, those that are keeping score at home will notice that we drank this last episode.
We did. It was because it was so good, and we also had leftovers.
Right, we had leftovers, and not only that, right now it's only about 20 minutes since we got done recording the previous episode. Again, for those keeping track at home. Anyway, without anything else, I think let's go ahead and start the movie.
I'm ready.
All right.
First. Hey, we're back.
We are back. Now, I'll go ahead and say it right out the gate. Not my favorite movie.
Hey, there's a reason why this was made in the mid-'80s and you hadn't heard of it.
Yeah. Although, that being said, I don't think I've ever seen anything that made Helen Hunt look so gorgeous.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Helen Hunt is one of the stars in this movie. She's a pretty good role in it. And she's, what, like 20?
20, 21? I mean, young.
Very good looking. And that actually was the redeeming value of the movie.
It was fun to watch her through it. Now, we do see a couple other actors. For instance, the main character, Jack Death. I recognize the actor. I know he's done some stuff later. And his cop friend, whatever the hell his name was. Anyway, I've seen him before too, but I can't think of anything what it is, what they've done. The only actor
you just recognize them as supporting characters,
right, in later stuff, and the only actor I recognize by name is Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
Right. So
the main idea of this story is a cop in the far future, 300 years in the future, is on assignments to destroy what would you describe the other Whistler as? He's kind of like a mind control expert.
Yeah, he's kind of a mind control, but he's obviously not that good because he has to have kind of dumb people to bend to his will. So
this bad guy takes over the minds of people, but not takes over. He influences them.
Right.
And he's apparently had a cult following, and so the cops are eliminating them systematically.
Right.
Jack Death is a little bit of a rogue cop, but of course the best there is, right?
The only one. Right?
Yeah, that's the only kind of cop we make movies about. And Whistler has gone back in time, which their time travel method is kind of interesting.
Kind of weird. Yeah.
Go ahead and why don't you take it up here?
Well, the time travel method is a human technology, first off, which, by the way, is kind of funny that we do a time travel movie after doing a time travel episode. Anyway, he goes back in time. The time travel mechanism is kind of a drug induced or something along those lines. Anyway, they pick relatives. The idea is that the bad guy went back in time and is wiping out relatives, the early ancestors of the council, the leaders of the current city.
Right. Where our first paradox exists right there, but let's continue with the time
Right.
travel.
So Jack Death, is first off, he throws away his badge, but then the very next scene after throwing away his badge is him being recruited back in the service so he can help the leaders of the city.
Which was a very bad editing
It
job.
was horrible. Oh my God. Anyway, you don't have one scene of him leaving and then the next scene of him coming back. There's no transition. There's no story. Oh God, it was horrible. Anyway, he comes back. They send him back in time, but it's not him himself, so to speak, in that time. He's actually inhabiting another body.
Right. That's how they travel back
right.
in time, is they inhabit the body of someone that is their ancestor in the past.
Correct. And then the bad guy is trying to wipe out the ancestors of the leaders. Jack Death meets up with Helen Hunt almost immediately. In fact, he wakes up with her getting dressed, which was kind of fun for a moment to watch her bare back.
I did not know that was her until she turned around.
Right. Exactly. And then when she did, anyway. Again, really the good point of this movie to watch is for Helen Hunt, and that's really about the only reason you need to watch it. Anyway, action ensues. I'm trying to figure out why in this movie, when they're under the mind influence of Whistler, the bad guy, why do people go kind of into a zombie mode? They look like zombies. They behave very much like them.
They get kind of pasty, and their lips are blistered.
Suddenly chapped as if they've been outside for days.
Yeah, and their voice gets gravelly, and they can barely speak. They growl.
Right. Why go that direction when they're under control of a mind?
I think there needs to be some visual explanation to know that as a viewer, this person's now a trancer. That's what they call them, trancers. So this person's a trancer. It's obvious, you can tell.
Right.
But does it make sense?
Not at all. and you mentioned the paradox with the whole time thing. Is we come in and we find out one of the leaders is already dead, already gone.
Yeah. So Whistler in the past killed the ancestor of one of the leading council, and apparently these are the only people that can save the future.
Right.
The council of three.
The council of three.
And everyone else is kind of useless in society.
What I want to know is, are these three leaders it? I mean, we don't have like a vice president. We don't have Secretary of State that can fill in for these people.
Their doormat, and I'm not kidding, their doormat said on it, like West Coast Province or something like that.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, first of all, it's a little silly. They have a giant doormat that announces who they are. But,
to take over world, kill 3 people inside.
Yeah, it was really.
I did kind of like the idea that they introduced the Great Quake, which I guess we're led to believe wipes out L.A.
Right.
And we see the tall buildings out in the ocean still kind of standing.
So it's an earthquake that causes the lowering of the seabed, but not the destruction of the
buildings. That's pretty impressive, yes.
Yeah. So it kind of just slides in a little bit. It's kind of like, out about 30,
I really don't have
miles.
a lot of redeeming things about this movie, so I'm going to keep pointing out the fun things that were just absolutely hilarious and kind of funny to me.
One of them was, to me, we're watching the scene. There's a scene where Jack and Helen Hunt's character are in a punk club, and just for no reason, 3 guys
appear
walk
out of nowhere.
and they like stare him down for a second. There's a cut to black for like half a second.
Right.
And the next thing you know, they're fighting.
It's as if they cut the commercial, they come back.
That's what I thought. I'm like, did they cut the commercial?
What are we doing? And he beats the crap out of him, again, for no reason. There's no point.
And then they go on.
And they move on with the rest of the story. And the entire movie was full of moments like this. Yeah. For instance...
except we didn't have the gratuitous black nothing on the screen.
Good point. There's one scene where they got to... Part of the guy's mission, the good guy's mission when he's back in time, is he's trying to protect these ancestors from dying. They've identified the ancestors that are living in his time and in LA at that time. So he's got to go back and protect them. One of them turns out to be a former famous baseball player pitcher, who is now apparently a homeless guy living in some warehouse, whatever the hell it was. And another, you mentioned it in the movie. Another sign of a good movie is long, pointless scenes.
Bad movies.
Right. The sign of a bad movie, long, pointless scenes. There was a good 5 minutes of him throwing bottles.
He's pitching for spectator, or he's pitching on the behalf of a bunch of other indigent people just to entertain them.
Right.
And we don't learn anything about him. There's nothing.
And it went on for about 5 minutes. I mean, it was incredibly long. And then also, they're trying
to... actually, we do learn that he can still pitch.
He can still... That's a good point, because that does become important later.
It doesn't need to be 5 minutes.
It doesn't need to be.
He could have thrown a shoe at a cat that was crying. You know, not that I would advocate that, but, I'm trying to think of something that would have fit the scene.
Right. And then there's a scene when Helen Hunt and Jack Death's character, or Helen Hunt's character, I don't remember her name.
Wow. I don't remember it either. They only said it once in the entire movie.
Right, exactly. It was
remember the other elf said it? Lily or...
Lillian? Like Lisa? I don't remember. And the only reason I remember Jack Death as the actor, as the character, because that's a ridiculous name.
And they repeat that throughout the movie.
Right.
Your name is Death?
Right.
It's just a name, dude.
Anyway, there's a moment when Jack Death and the woman are looking in this warehouse for this picture. And for no reason, she decides to stop in the middle of everything to have a kiss. And again, way too long of a moment. Way too long of a scene.
Although the movie, as quirky as it is, it was fun.
It was fun.
If you got nothing else to do and you can't find another movie to watch Trancers once.
It's not
if you've never seen it before.
I mean, I don't know. I think we're giving it a hard time because of when it was made. I mean, there are a few other movies out there that are better. For instance, Flash Gordon came out in 1980. So
right.
It's 5 years previous to this.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie I felt like was far better put together than this one.
Well, Terminator came out in 84, and this came out in 85.
A year after.
And you look at the premise, I mean, you're protecting someone in the past.
Right.
It's real similar.
Very similar kind of a plot story. I just don't feel like that... Well, let's put it this way. Let's say James Cameron did this movie. You think it would be better?
Well, let me ask you this. Did this look like a low-budget movie?
Yes, it did.
So on that budget, do I think James Cameron could have done a better job than this director? That's pretty judgmental. I don't know anything about this director.
That is a good point.
Except that they didn't go on to be famous.
Right.
So
right. At least not because of this movie, anyway.
Yeah, I would have to speculate that, James Cameron's an excellent director, so yes. But, I don't know. I don't know what the producers
we would have we should, find other movies that this director has done.
Yeah, and we don't know how quick of a shooting schedule they had.
No.
For the resources they had, it might have been top-notch. Was it... just in general, I think it could have been a lot better.
Could have been a lot better.
There were some editing problems.
For instance, they ended up falling through a floor in the warehouse.
Yeah, they go in on the ground level. You don't ever see them go up. They fall through.
In fact, there are no
floor.
stairs because it's pretty wide open.
Yeah,
right.
And when they fall through, they then exit and they're on
the ground.
They're on the ground level. All right.
I also loved it when there's by the way, the vehicles of choice for the heroes in this movie are scooters.
Yeah, tough guy scooters.
The tough guy scooters. They purposely robbed scooters. They didn't go after the motorbikes. They purposely grabbed the scooters.
It's just more low budget. I can just see the director or the producer going, "We got to have at least $3,000 for some a Harley or something." And they're like, "No, we only got $50. We're gonna rent some scooters."
They bring the scooters back to where they robbed them from, and out comes the owner, which is one of the guys that he get punched in the face. One of this punk rock guys, a tough guy, riding a scooter. Wow. Well, another point I'd like to talk about is the bad guy in this movie. And honestly, the bad guy wasn't horrible.
No, he was actually
pretty decent.
And I'll say for action movies, the climax of the movie wasn't great.
No.
They could have done something a little more dramatic, even with the budget. And this is how it tied in with the baseball player. For some reason, the bad guy trips on the edge of a building. Well, he gets hit with a baseball or whatever the guy was.
He gets hit with a glass bottle.
But that causes him to fall off the edge, and he's holding the edge, and the baseball player throws again and causes him to fall. Well, that's not what kills them, though. And you got I'm not going to spoil that because you got to watch the movie to catch
You've got to enjoy the ridiculousness. Yeah.
But other than the poor climax, you're right. I think the bad guy wasn't bad.
Good. I mean, I don't think I'd even put him on the whole Ming level. I think Ming was a much better of a bad guy than this guy.
Well,
Two different dudes, though. I mean, this guy was presented in a completely different manner. I view this guy as Ming before Ming was able to take power.
About this same era, another movie with Tom Selleck and with Gene Simmons.
Runaway.
Runaway. He reminded me a lot of Gene Simmons' character from Runaway.
Right.
And I don't know if they were going for that or if it was just because, but it was the same kind of like he had mental powers and influence on people.
Gene Simmons really didn't have influence on people. He was just a master at robotics and technology.
Okay. But what was he had the evil eye thing, or was that just his character?
That was just his character. He was just what his deal was. He reprogrammed robots to go about his bidding, which I like that method for a bad guy because this guy. Whatever his name was, the bad guy here.
Whistler.
The Whistler didn't really take direct action. He used his ability and had his minions do his bidding for him, much like Gene Simmons' character in Runaway. And I like that because, and it's the same thing with Ming. Ming used his minions to do all
his power was not this personal ability, but his influence through
others, his coercion. And I like that when you have the minions that you identify as the minions, unlike there's some other movies out there where the big bad guy turns out to be the minion of someone else, but you really don't know it until the end. I don't like that.
By the way, for those of you listening, references to Ming, please go watch our episode on Flash Gordon.
Yes, we did a wonderful I think it's one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far. Although time travel here recently is
pretty good.
It's pretty awesome. But yes, the bad guy in this, I've definitely seen a lot worse bad guys. And honestly, I think Gene Simmons in Runaway was worse than this guy. Only because I don't think Gene Simmons makes a good actor, but that's another story for another time. This movie was...
I still do recommend it, but only if you've got nothing else. If you browsed and you have not seen this movie and you're like, nothing else looks any good, try this.
Absolutely. And honestly, and you brought up a good point because we're watching this and we're looking at the time travel part of it and we're analyzing that. Take this movie, watch this movie, take your brain out and leave it outside and just sit down with a couple of beers and some popcorn and you'll laugh. You'll get a kick out of it. It's kind of fun. I love that the protagonist here, Jack Death, is you said it. He's a fan of the old.
Yeah.
And by the way, count the amount of times that he lights the cigarette in a different way. It's kind of fun. Everything from flicking on the teeth, the underside of I mean, it's ridiculous.
The door jam.
The door jam. I know. And anyway, old technology for 23rd century. They actually identify the 23rd century. So we're talking Star Trek at this point.
They didn't get very far, did they? They figured out time travel, but they couldn't figure out anything beyond neon lights for anything else.
No, they couldn't. They did have they have space travel because he was on different planets.
Yeah, which it's only in mentioning though.
Right,
so you don't get to see anything.
Space travel at all. As far as how sci-fi this is, it's kind of sci-fi in the same way for me that Star Trek 4 was sci-fi. Star Trek 4. The bulk of the movie was not sci-fi. It was them in current times, trying to get back to what they were from. It's exactly the same thing with this movie. And I think that makes a better choice with low budget.
Right.
You don't have to spend a lot of money on special effects. The costuming is a lot easier to deal with. You don't have to use as much makeup for people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, pretty much there were 3 scenes where they're in the future. One of them was outside a little restaurant, which they threw some neon lights on, and they had a classic car that they threw some tubes on, and that made it a futuristic
It looked
car.
like a 1950 Chev with hoses.
Yeah. And then they had this room, the couple of rooms that they were in, which again were beefed up with some
which I did think was kind of funny.
Lighting effects.
When Jack Death goes in and addresses the council, the remaining 2 members of the council, when he's brought in to stop the bad guy in the past, he's brought into the big council chamber. There they are. They're talking, and now he has to go back in time, which is the next room.
Yeah. They keep it right there. They don't want anyone else getting to it. You're going to get into that room. You're going to go through the council first.
I guess you have to have the council's approval for time travel. I don't get it.
Which makes you wonder, do they keep that poor technician lady stuck there? I mean,
she has a
she's
cot in
there
the
all
back.
the time, right?
Right. She has a cot in the back. I did think it was kind of funny. The opening scene, you mentioned the diner. I was suddenly reminded of the very end of Spaceballs.
Oh,
the
yes.
diner scene.
It looked like the same diner.
It looked like the same damn place. Looked like the same people sitting in it.
Well, it only had the one guy, but he looked kind of greasy. And...
Right, exactly. Oh, it was... Yeah. Ooh, what else needs to be said about this?
Let's see. We've talked about the... Well, you know, the I will say the gun that he had in the future...
Yeah.
Looked pretty cool.
It was very
cool.
cool.
Kind of a laserish.
Laser. It was kind of small because really in Flash Gordon, the laser pistols, they were big. Mm-hmm. You couldn't hide them in your jacket very well. And him being you could call him a detective, even in his present. Mm-hmm. The gun was nice. It was nice. This little compact thing. Kind of funny that he lost it into a pot of stew.
Yeah. in the diner scene, he gets knocked accidentally, and the gun flies directly into a pot of very rolling boil.
Right. I think it would have been appropriate for all of the actors to face the camera. It's good.
And then there's one of the Trancers throws the pot of boiling soup on him, and it's like no effect at all.
Right.
You know, he just kind of brushes it off.
And that actually that was a great test of the technology, because that pistol, he was able to pick it up and he didn't even have to shake it off. He just shot her.
Well, he tried to grab it once and it burned
hot.
his hand.
So he picked it up.
He picks it with his other hand,
right.
Which makes total sense.
Right, because the one hand cools it down. But no, you're right. The gun design on that, I actually kind of got a kick out of. Thought that was pretty cool.
It didn't look silly either.
It didn't look silly. It looked like it belonged, unlike the car. Or even the spaceship that you kind of saw floating by. It looked like we need something that looks kind of like a spaceship. Here we go. Yeah. We're going to draw some cardboard and put it up there. But not only that, the lighting effect that they gave the pistol wasn't bad. In fact, that one effect could stand up today, I think.
Which does bring a good point. Whenever he being Jack Death killed a Trancer, it would glow red and disappear, and there would be a burn on the ground.
Right.
And that was a pretty cool effect too.
Very cool. One thing I never quite understood, at least the movie didn't really explain it well, what caused that? Was that the bad guy himself causing them to burn up after they died? Was it the pistol? Which I don't think it was.
And it was in the future and in the past.
Right. So what caused that? I want to say the bad guy.
It can't be the pistol, because he was shooting people with
real bullets, right?
In the present, and
right.
And
they were still
back in '85.
And they actually did make a point of it. There's a point when Santa Claus turns into a Trancer, which is actually one of the better scenes. Santa Claus turns into a Trancer and goes after Jack Death. Jack Death is able to put him down and get out of there before the cops come. By the way, the bad guy is masquerading as a cop in 1985.
Because that's who his ancestor was.
That's who his ancestor was. He comes out and he's looking at the body bag of the dead Santa Claus. And it looks like he's concentrating on making that happen. Making him burn and kind of go away. So, but my question is, why is he does he need to get rid of the bodies? Because it seems like a scorch mark would bring more questions than just a dead body.
But, interestingly, their clothing and everything would burn, but it didn't burn anything else.
No.
In fact, there was one guy who burns up on paper, that he's laying on paper, and the paper doesn't burn up. It gets scorched, but it doesn't catch fire.
Which I could understand because in modern day, and right now in real science and real physics, if something does burn hot and fast enough,
right, it doesn't combust.
It doesn't combust other things. It just disintegrates, and I can get that. So if that's the case here, that guy, if the bad guy is able to make a body combust in
just do that,
right? Why can't you? Do that somewhere else. I mean, you're pretty weak with the mind control. You can't control everybody. In fact, there's a pretty small group of people, it looks like, that he can.
Which I know you're making a point, but I'm going to bring up something when we get done with this point about who he mind controls. Go ahead.
That was my point. Is why, if you had the ability to disintegrate the body in that manner, why are you doing the whole mind control thing when you could just walk around easier and kill? Whatever.
There was an odd, I'm going to call it coincidence. Jack Death shows up at where the Santa Claus is because Helen Hunt's character works there.
Wait for work, right?
Why was the Santa Claus a trancer?
Ah.
And so that brings a bigger question: is who all got tranced prior to Jack showing up?
Right.
Because the bad guy goes back in time first.
Right.
And that's why Jack goes there, is to chase him down. So obviously he's had time to cause a few million people, 1,000 people, 100 people, 10 people. But it seems very coincidental that Santa Claus was a trancer.
But see, also, the bad guy knew at multiple instances, he knew when and where Jack Death was. And there were bad guys that are waiting for him. And I can't help but wonder if this is just one of those times.
Actually, you know what? You make a good point. At the very end, doesn't he say that she's one of his ancestors?
Right.
So Helen Hunt actually turns out to be one of his ancestors as well.
Right.
And that's why, okay, so he was there because the Santa Claus was probably going to take her out.
Right. That would be my guess. And we also learned that Phil, who is the body that Jack is with, is also an ancestor. So there's proof positive, so to speak, that he had a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. He came back and inhabited his one.
But they were already together.
Right. Yes, that's true. So who's
But would they have stayed together and had kids?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, and then who knows? And that's fine with us not asking. At the tail end of the movie, very, very end of the movie, we see one frame right before the end credits, and it's of that little girl. By the way, the guy's cop friend comes back.
And his ancestor is a little girl.
Little girl, which is hilarious. But there's that little moment when we see her face just kind of looking at him. Why? I don't know.
And it rolls credits.
It rolls credits. And so now I kind of want to go back and watch it. Of all things, I want to know why the hell was she even in the last scene?
You know, I am unaware of a Trancers 2, but that's a good thing to maybe check.
Maybe
it was the lead into another movie, and maybe they made a whole series of these things.
Man. Here's a good question for you. Does this movie stand up today?
No. Not as a whole movie. And honestly, I probably won't watch it again for another 25
years. Right. I can't even believe we're doing an episode about it. But we do have to do bad episodes too. Well, we have to do great episodes about bad movies.
A variety of movies on purpose.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because that's what the show is about. Not only that, this is a movie that I have never seen and honestly never heard of until just an hour and a half ago.
Just a quick backstory. I had picked two movies. Another one called Outlanders, which was made around the same time, starring Sean Connery. And this one, Scott had never seen either, and I let him kind of sway the decision a little bit.
Right.
So
we wanted to watch a movie that was kind of off the cuff and we weren't prepared for. And I think this one did really well. I will admit, it was fun. It was fun to laugh at it. It was fun to pick it apart. I kind of wish we could have some dialogue recorded of the two of us just commenting through the entire movie. Not only that, because we saw Stan Lee. There's a guy in there that looks like Stan Lee. It was hilarious.
And he had the cameo shot that Stan Lee has too. You're like, what? Really? Is this really?
I thought it was for a long moment. I truly thought it was.
Although in 1985, Stan would have been much younger.
Much younger. And that's what threw me off. Is because that guy looked like Stan Lee now.
Yeah.
And in exactly the same. I mean, to me, he looked like. What movie was it where he showed up as Hugh Hefner? Was it Iron Man? Yeah. One of the Iron Mans? Right. That's what he looked like. I thought it was Stan Lee doing Hugh Hefner again. All right.
I think we need to draw this one to an end.
Absolutely. All right. The biggest question of the night for this movie is how many six-packs does this movie need to be awesome?
To be awesome. A full load.
Full load?
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. We enjoyed it. I think I had 1.5.
Right. Cans, I had a one before and one after, or one during. So that is. But I'm with you. I'm not sure that there's enough beer to really not pick this apart.
By the way, if you're new to us, our scale is to rate movies on six-packs. If you understand the scale, post it on our website. Because we intentionally have this scale set so that the more you drink, it's not necessarily better.
No. Exactly. But no, because our scale system goes from 1 to 5, I am going to have to give it a full 5 6-packs.
Yeah.
I really do. Now, at the end of 5 6-packs, I would probably be unconscious dreaming of something similar to this because I'm watching it, but it'd be equally bad.
You're rewinding it back to the first scene of Helen Hunt.
That's exactly. Pause it. Hey guys, you got to check this out.
Guess who that is?
That's right. Let's play a new game, boys. But yeah, not a great movie. There are movies that are worse, and I'm sure we're gonna watch them, and I can't wait.
And with that, there's going to be movies that are much better that we're going to watch.
Right. I mean, there's a couple of movies out there. I can't wait till the day we decide to do Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait for that because. Anyway, I can't wait because I could go into all the reasons why Star Wars is so great, but we need to talk about that on the Star Wars episode.
All right, it's agreed. One of these episodes definitely will be Star Wars.
Absolutely. But with that, I got nothing. Em, you got anything?
Nope.
Good deal.
All right, signing out.
Awesome. Again, check us out, smsci-fi.com. Take care, guys.